Greetings everyone and welcome to another episode of Army Testing Logs. This is Tactical Lich here, and yes, today we'll be looking at the aspiring champions. Individually, these guys are very powerful combat models. With heavily armored, high combat stats, silver shields, they can take an absolute beating, but the problem is their small unit size and low killing power means that they can't really do much than holding back hordes of chaff, as they can easily get overwhelmed by infantry with higher quality. So basically, you only see these guys against very trashy infantry frontline. Say in the Warhammer tournament ship, we can see some players bringing full aspiring champions frontline to vampire counts matchups, where they can just hold back the vampire trashy frontline and just let the rest of the army do the damage. And there's also another odd attribute on these guys, vanguard deployment. You never see these guys getting deployed in vanguard anyways, since they're the only vanguard infantry on Chaos roster. So that means if they deploy ahead of their army, they will not receive any support from other infantry whatsoever and get overrun by your opponent. So more often than not, you see these guys getting deployed in their original deployment zone, and their vanguard potential got wasted. But now I've came up with this unconventional build where you can see not only one unit of aspiring champions, but full 5 of these guys, reaching the limit on the maximum number of aspiring champions you can bring and deployed right on the edge of the vanguard deployment zone in the face of your enemy. For the rest of the army, we have Marauder Horsemen flanking the aspiring champion front line, 2 Chaos Warhounds with poison to chase down enemy archers, Chaos, the Ever Chosen leading the way, not leading the way, but definitely the army with Fireball and Burning Head. Chaos Warriors with Halberds back here guarding 2 Hell Cannons. For the Wood Elf army, my opponent brought 4 Glade Riders with Hackbane tips. With poison and longer range, these guys can totally slaughter the Marauder Horsemen. They're protected by some Wild Riders with shields, Deadly Glass Cannon, Light Cavalry. Glade Lord, the ranged variant with Arrows of Kurnus and Prey of Anathema. In the trees, 2 Blade Singers are in hiding. Magical infantry with deadly damaging potential. These guys can cut down, these girls can definitely cut down the aspiring champions in a matter of seconds. Wraiths or the Frozen Heart, definitely not effective against my frontline, but still pretty good damage potential from these guys. There are also some Fireback Elders in front. With their Wildfire Aura, they can provide 25% fire resistance to units nearby, protecting them from some fire damage, say Flaming Sword of Ruin or even Burning Head. As for the other heroes, we have Branch Wraith here, bringing Wither and Earthblood. Wither good for debuffing the armor of Chaos units, and Earthblood for healing. And a Way Stalker right here, yep, bringing more Arrows of Kurnus and just a lot more range firepower. So yeah, that pretty much goes for the army composition, and let's get straight into the battle. The Wood Elves started the game with a little bit more mobility advantage, as these Glade Riders are very good at trading with Marauder Horsemen. With superior range and poison, they can outtrade Marauder Horsemen any other day. But then now they're just shooting at aspiring champions, which is a lot of waste for their ammo, honestly. With 120 armor and a silver shield, you can see they have been taking volleys to the face and just standing there with barely a dent in their HP. And with the Hell Cannon fire support taking out models from the Glade Riders, they're now desperately trying to shift around and shoot down the cannon crew, but then Horsemaster are now here to screen them. As they approach the Hell Cannons, they also approach into the range of the Marauder Horsemen. So a combination of longer range and shorter range missile really puts them in a disadvantage here, as they're now forced to just kind of stand and shoot. If they move away, they will get shot by the Hell Cannons, but if they move in, they will get pelted down by javelins. Really a hard choice here, so they're now back behind the tree lines, hoping to just protect themselves from some Hell Cannon fire, as the Marauder Horsemen are now lured away by the Glade Lord, and they should be soon safe enough to get in for another volley again. But other than that, it's just pretty much skirmishing phase right now. Not much is going on, as both armies are trying to expand their ammo on enemy units. So a little bit of fast forward. Glade Riders coming in again, focus fire on this Hell Cannon. Not very good for Hell Cannons, especially with the Marauders away and without protection from these Javelins. It is getting focused down. And yep, right there, breaking Hell Cannon model. But it is very important that even if your Hell Cannon is broken, you have to conserve the cannon crew if you have another Hell Cannon model, because, well, cannon models, artillery models are interchangeable between crews. So if this Hell Cannon crew expanded all their ammo, you can just snap this Hell Cannon crew back in, and then you can just expand the remaining ammo on this crew. So yeah, pulling these Hell Cannon crew back up and let this Hell Cannon model to expand all their ammo instead. And yeah, right now more skirmishing goes on as the Archaon try to fireball the Glade Lord. Glade Riders coming in for a second try to finish off the other Hell Cannon, but this time Chaos Warriors with halberds are there to screen, pushing forward in a desperate hope just to stop them from firing or make them move away enough to get out of range from the Hell Cannon. So yeah, and now Marauder Horsemen are coming in, converging over, trying to screen off these Glade Riders. Over here, Marauder Horsemen are now trying to pelt down any vulnerable targets, as they all have minimal armor. Wood Elves are pretty good targets for Javelins. It's just that, yep, right here. Prey of Anathema gone down on these Marauder Horsemen, and they're subject to a charge from the Wild Riders. Although that's actually a decent trade, considering that also left the backs of these Wild Riders exposed to Javelin fire. But then yeah, right now it's more of an effort of forcing off the Glade Riders, preventing them from killing the remaining Hell Cannons. They're actually getting very depleted after multiple volleys of Javelins and a lot of Hellfire bombardment. Yeah, most of them are almost like out of health. The healthiest is still less than half. So yeah, pretty good trade for the Chaos overall, as most of the Javis are still online and available to just shoot. Finally here, we have Wood Elf infantry engagement. Finally, Branch Wraith ROL edition are pushing in, but here Blade Singers are pulling back, possibly to dodge some possible incoming fireball. Burning Hat. But that doesn't matter anyways, as now the Blade Singers are stationary and are engaging in combat against aspiring champions. They are vulnerable to fireball, to Burning Hat, and now they're down all the way from full health to less than a quarter left. Over here, Wild Riders are desperately trying to chase down these Marauder Horsemen, but without success. So they're pulling back, finding some more additional, more suitable target. But here, aspiring champions are not good at holding against elite infantry. As you can see, a very depleted Blade Singer unit still managed to slaughter these guys. But then 550 gold on the aspiring champions versus over 1,000 gold on Blade Singers. I'll take that trade any day. And yeah, right now the Glade Riders are basically depleted all their ammo, while the Javis are still pretty much online on the Marauder Horsemen. Pretty good ammo reserve right now, so I'm free to fire at anything without the fear of getting counter shot. Now just pelting down these Blade Riders one at a time. The depleted Blade Singer unit came back for another round of combat, but big mistake. Another Overcast Burning Hat went down along the line, doing minimal damage to the aspiring champions while just roasting the Wood Elf front line. So very good trade overall, but then like now the aspiring champions are facing off a new, in numbers superior enemy, and in quality pretty superior as well. Especially with a rear charge from the Wild Riders, they're taking some hefty damage over time. A second net has gone down on these Marauder Horsemen, allowing the Wild Riders to catch them, but with the support from more Javelins and Hell Cannon, the Wild Riders are not having a good time whatsoever, especially with dogs coming in aspiring champions piling in, trying to dish out some additional damage against these glass cannon cavalry. Fleet Lord comes in, trying to dive for Archaon, the Ever-Chosen, in a desperate attempt to snipe him out, but he is a very good combatant. So, turning back with his flaming sword, give him a good slap. The Great Lord is taking massive damage in the engagement. But sad news is, the center engagement is collapsing for the Chaos Warriors, as these aspiring champions got recharged by the devastating Wild Riders. Over here, aspiring champions are wavering as well, and with the terror as well as some superior infantry presence, they're getting mopped up by the Wood Elves. So yeah, at least the Hell Cannon is still firing into the fray, doing whatever damage they can. And over here, more units are broken off by the Hounds. So let's have a look at the battlefield. We have some damaged halberds from the range fire of the Wood Elves, some regrouped aspiring champions. This very healthy aspiring champions are trying to hold back the infantry tide and monsters of the Wood Elves, but with Hell Cannons shooting them, the friendlies right now, they're not gonna hold them down for long. Over here, Wild Riders are charging in, chasing after these Chaos Warhounds, but with Archaon coming in for a counter charge, as well as another Chaos Warhound unit intercepting these guys, they are getting overwhelmed in terms of numbers, and without the armor and melee defense to hold themselves up against that many enemies, they are gonna get devoured, eaten alive by these Chaos Warhounds. And now, yeah, basically it's in the middle/late game stage right now. The Hell Cannons are still expending their ammo right now. One of the crews has used up their ammo, so the second crew is now shooting. But yeah, basically the idea is all the units of the Elves are basically held back by the aspiring champions and horsemen, so these Hell Cannons are safe to output their damage however they want. And as you can see, it's very effective in creating a safe space for the Hell Cannon to expand their ammo. The last net has gone down on Archaon right now, getting chased down by Dryads and Blade Singers, so these Warhounds are sacrificed, dumped into a fray, trying to mop up or intercept the charge of the Blade Singers and Wraiths. Not quite successful, as Archaon took a couple hits, but still, it's better than just letting him surround it. So now that especially the net has gone off, Archaon is free to roam again. One Hound unit routed, but it is an acceptable cost, as the mobility of the Wood Elves retreat, while the Halberdiers, the Chaos Warriors with halberds no longer needed to guard the Hell Cannons as they are out of ammo, are now free to push up and engage in hand-to-hand combat, instead of just getting shot in the late game. So yeah, the second Hound unit is routed as well, and this time it should be chased off by the Great Lord at this point. But the Treekin are now pushing into the melee range of these Chaos Warriors. Intercepted by the heroes of Wood Elves, they're not getting the engagement they want, but fear not, a second unit is coming in. Both are really healthy, at least more than half health at least, with most of their models intact, and with high vigor level. This one's completely fresh. This one's winded, but probably from chasing the Glade Riders. They're in pretty good combat condition, while the Wood Elf units are exhausted or tired. Over here, more aspiring champions got broken by the combined charge of Glade Riders and Glade Lord, but at this point they're so depleted, I don't even consider them as an effective fighting force anyways. But yeah, over here, Archaon is now in the fray with 600 health left, charging in with his flaming sword, just smacking the branch wraith. Blade Lord actually came in for a devastating charge, taking out over 500 HP on this guy. But with Halberdiers surrounding them, Chaos Warriors with halberds, sorry, as well as Archaon just counter-charging, just slapping him back, slapping the Glade Lord back. She's now also danger low as well. Rear charge from Horsemen and Chaos Warhounds, not the most effective combat, but at least it will just do some damage to the Fireback Elders before they recharged by Blade Riders in turn and wavering and getting broken off. But overall, very efficient trade by the Chaos Warriors, while Archaon is free to roam and charge in on the backs of these individual heroes. As you can see, the Glade Lord tried to go for another Alpha Strike, pushing into the halberds to get Archaon, but with Chaos Warriors with halberds intercepting, she's not going to succeed and take some heavy damage in return. And now it's just the Glade Lord trying to hover around and go for a snipe, but alas, the leadership of the Glade Lord didn't hold, and with the Glade Lord routing, she couldn't dodge fireballs anymore, as you could have seen that she was doing for the whole damn game, dodging all the fireballs. But now, with the Glade Lord gone, leadership of the Wood Elves are failing to hold up, and that goes the game of the Wood Elves. Victory for the Warriors of Chaos. Now let's have a look at the post-battle screen. As you can see here, Archaon did a lot of damage, over 3,400 damage, burning down elite infantry of the Wood Elves, just duking it out against single entities in melee combat. Absolutely a powerhouse of the game. But that is basically thanks to these aspiring champions' presence. Like, yes, they're not really great at dishing out damage and killing infantry. As you can see there, they didn't really get their value back. But the thing is, they don't care about burning heads. They basically suffer no damage from that kind of friendly fire, so and once they engage in melee, I can just recklessly snap a burning head right on top of them to burn through enemy infantry while they just cackle in the middle of the flaming skull. So yeah, this burning head plus aspiring champions equals OP, I would say. But yeah, Chaos Warriors did pretty solid job right there, taking a bunch of fire from the Glade Riders, pushing them off, and in the end, being the reserve forces as they are, just dismantle the Fireback Elders and the other characters of the Wood Elves. Horsemen plus Hell Cannons did a solid job here. Hell Cannons didn't really quite earn their value back, but combined with the Marauder Horsemen, they proved to be very effective in counter skirmishing the Glade Riders. As for the Hounds, they did okay. Not really anything astonishing, but they intercepted a bunch of cavalry charges on Archaon, so pretty decent. As for the Wood Elves, the Glade Lord and the Waystalker allowed to be expending all their ammo, so did some pretty hefty damage, but the rest of the army not so much. These Blade Singers didn't really earn their value back after a couple burning heads. Wild Riders got pelted down by the javelins. Glade Riders actually earned quite a bit of value, taking down Hell Cannons and shooting down a Marauder Horseman and shooting at Chaos Warriors as well, but just not enough to carry the game, as a lot of their actual damage are negated, especially in the initial stage where they shot a bunch of aspiring champions doing next to no damage. Fireback Elders, not a damage dealing unit whatsoever, so not expecting them to carry the game honestly. And yeah, that's basically it for the army performances. Let's have a little closer look onto the build itself. Now time for the build breakdown. For the army build, you want a full line of aspiring champions with a couple Hell Cannons at the back. For the leader, definitely Archaon the Ever-Chosen with at least the Burning Head and Fireball for damage dealing purposes. Of course, Slayer of Kings for that character sniping power. The other components are pretty much flexible. Say you can switch out halberds with something with great weapons if you're facing dwarves, or if you're facing Skaven, you can just go for the cheap option and bring Marauders, since the best they can throw at your Hell Cannons are basically Death Runners and Dogs, which Chaos Marauders can have a decent trade against. Same for the mobility. You can switch out more Marauder Horsemen and just get more Dogs, or just go full upgrade into the Deluxe Zone and just get Marauder Horsemasters. You can also bring in some Chaos Knights for a bit more mass to intercept cavalry in the case of, say, Empires. So yeah, pretty much choose the units to your own liking and according to the situation, as long as you keep the full aspiring champion frontline and hell cannons intact, along with maybe Archaon. You can also choose Saphrael for his insane bombardment damaging spells, but I personally prefer Archaon because of Burning Head and the synergy with aspiring champions. So as for how to use this build, I would call the deployment of the aspiring champions something like an aggressive screening. Basically, you want to have your hell cannons deployed a little bit forward to the front of your deployment zone, just so you can get in range and provide cover fire for your aspiring champions, while the aspiring champions just push all the way towards the very edge of the vanguard deployment zone, right in the face of your opponent. And with their superior defensive stats, silver shields, 120 armor, good defense, they should be able to pin down the enemy infantry line long enough so your hell cannons can start just dishing out the damage on your opponent's infantry line. And in the case of, say, Wood Elves, ruining their skirmishing cavalry. And this is actually the first phase of the battle, where you send in the aspiring champions to intercept enemy army and use your mobility to provide a safe environment for your hell cannons and mobility to do some damage. Do as much damage as possible against your opponent. Especially when you push the aspiring champions in, you can start dropping burning heads left, right, and center with Archaon, as they have no fear on friendly fire. Just burn all the way through your enemy's infantry line and reap the benefits. And after that, your aspiring champions, tanky as they are, should be overwhelmed by a bunch of single entities, cavalry, monsters, whatnot, and should buckle under the heavy pressure of your whole opponent's army. But that's okay, that's basically expected, as they are only costing 550, not really much of a concern even if you lose all of them, as long as you dish out enough damage with your ranged components and Burning Head, of course. At that point, you should basically start pulling back your aspiring champions while using your mobility to harass your opponent. Say, charging down scattered units with your mobilities, like Horse Masters or Chaos Knights if you brought those, or Chaos Warhounds. And continuously just harassing them with, and by now they should be depleted from the missile pressure and Burning Head, so shouldn't be too much of a problem to delay their advance. While just basically you need to buy time for the hell cannons to expand all their ammo and get some more value out of the missile fire. And after that, we come to a third stage, which is the final showdown. At this point, your opponent should finally reach the destination, which is your hell cannons. But then they should have exhausted all their ammo anyways, so you are free to send in your reserve units, which is whoever guarding the hell cannons, to finish the job. Ideally, they should be pretty depleted after all that fighting and exhausted, while your rearguard units are still fresh. And at that point, you're just free to just go in, melee them to death, or recharge with your remaining mobility and finish the game. Aspiring Champions at a cost of 550 gold is such exceptional damage sponge. With silver shields, 120 armor, 62 melee defense, these guys can tank out a lot of punishing, especially against non-armor piercing missiles. And even if the missiles are armor piercing, these guys' silver shields blocks out 55% of that incoming missiles, and basically wasting a lot of damage that could have been dealt to, say, Archaon, your reserve infantry, or your cavalry instead. So yeah, these guys, absolutely amazing in just tanking damage for their cost. They also have a pretty good splash attack against just chaff infantry, so even if you're engaging some infantry and trying to dish out a little bit more damage, this will help a bit. Not exceptional, but every bit helps. And over here, the vanguard attribute of these guys are just maximized as they push all the way into the front, preventing the enemy organ guns and infantry to just safely push forward. so the hell cannons can just safely hang back and deal whatever damage they can. But the most important thing about these aspiring champions is their low model count. Over here, it is really much of a blessing here. As you can see, their high defensive stat tank out a lot of the charge damage from the dwarves, and with the low model count, high health of these guys, they take almost no damage from the burning hands, and while standing in the middle of it, while the burning hands just roasted those dwarf warriors and a bunch of slayers. So yeah, these guys, you can just have a great synergy with burning hand. Just pin them down, drop a burning hand right on top of them. They don't care, especially with their high armor. While burning hand is not especially good against armor, so just great for holding back a line of chaff and just allowing the burning head to burn their way through, opening the infantry line from the enemies. But of course, their low model count is also part of the weakness, as they are really fragile to high weapon strength damage. As you might have known from Legend of Total War's video, the high damage of the weapon strength from characters, say Gotrek and Grombrindle here, they don't overflow as much on these aspiring champions. So every hit they land on these aspiring champions are a little bit more better utilized, as they are guaranteed to take down 1 or 2 models, or even just take down 3 or 4 with the splash attacks. And their low models also means that they can get overwhelmed by more elite infantry. Say, if these giant slayers didn't hang back to protect the artillery and are engaging the aspiring champions now, yeah, they are basically done for. With that insane armor-piercing melee damage and high weapon strength, yeah, these guys are not going to be long for this world, as even if they have high individual HP, the total HP is still rather low at around 2,600 or something around there. 2,800, yeah. So yeah, not really the best in holding back elite infantry. So that's why you need to use that burning head efficiently, and also allow your hell cannons to bomb out the elite infantry of your enemies. Another issue of aspiring champions is they lack mass. Only 12 models with infantry size, they cannot bog down anything larger than, well, infantry size. And they do not have the numbers to bog down the large units. So, like right here, Soul Crusher just trash in and push right through the thin line of that 12 aspiring champions, requiring these Chaos Knights rushing in to stop them, but alas, it is not quite enough. And on the other side, these aspiring champions are just getting chopped down by a bunch of marauders with great weapons and Norscan ice trolls just dumpstering these aspiring champions. So overall, not quite a good trade against anything that's with like fast offensive power and mass. So yeah, just kind of you have to bear in mind that this build, aspiring champion frontline, are mainly designed to deal with chaff and holding them back, and they do not have the amazing killing power themselves to do anything. And as you can see, the aspiring champion frontline is already in shambles, while the hell cannons have most ammo in stock, so they still have to expand a lot of time and to use up the ammo, which obviously I am lacking right now with the Norscan army fast on approaching, just pushing in, ready to just swarm the back line over here. And yeah, things are not looking too good, as the aspiring champions got dumpstered by these Norscan ice troll and Soul Crusher. And with the low model count of aspiring champions, they most certainly cannot handle being surrounded by armor-piercing infantry. So even something like marauders with great weapons can take them down if they get a surround. So yeah, this build is good against something with a more defensive infantry frontline, say High Elves with their spearmen, Dark Elves with bleak swords, dread spears, Empire State Troops works too, and also undead infantry would be a great choice, like zombies and skeletons, because they are just so weak in dealing damage. Dwarves works as well if you can actually shut down their armor-piercing missile fire with the help of hell cannons and maybe your mobility. It is definitely bad against anything with fast, aggressive infantry frontline or just monster rushing in general. So you have Northskin Beastmen, Greenskin Lizardmen, and maybe Tomb Kings if they go monster rushing or just having an aggressive infantry frontline. Like, say, Tomb King monsters might be a bit finicky, but if they go Shapti, then you might have a better chance. And yeah, definitely not Bretonnia. With all their cavalry circling around your aspiring champions and bogging them down with very, very cheap peasants, this will take them ages to kill them all, and the Bretonnian killing power just circles around and start trashing your backlines, which is definitely not recommended. Skaven kite build might be a problem as well, but if it's a typical Skaven artillery frontline, then just go ham, burn away their slaves, and trash their backline. So let me just give some final tips on this build. Basically, you can grab your hell cannon and turn them into like an impassable terrain, as they're really huge in general and can block a bunch of entity charging, and should be able to detect quite a few hits in terms of melee combat. So if you have a hell cannon, you can just position your halberds or whatever infantry that are guarding it slightly behind the hell cannon, and let the hell cannon take a few entity charge, while the rest will be absorbed by your infantry. As for the army deployment, your army is quite separated, but it's crucial to have them fight in tandem, and coordination is important. As you can see in my replays, the aspiring champions are blocking the front line for the back lines, and the hell cannons raining fire into the front line, just supporting wherever they can, shooting down skirmishers, shooting down frontline infantry, while the marauder horsemen are just fending off every mobile threat for the aspiring champions and the hell cannons. So it's basically these guys tanking the damage, blocking off the threat from pushing into the backline. This mobility is now screening off anything that can go against the aspiring champions and hell cannons, while the hell cannons are just dishing out damage however they can to prevent them from overwhelming the front lines and the mobility. So yeah, a bit of a summary for the whole build. It's a bit of a mixture between a rush and a camping build. You have the aspiring champions shove all the way up to your opponent's face, going ham into their chaff infantry and burning head, just blitzing them, trying to get into their backlines or just ruin their frontline engagement. And while the whole time your hell cannons are just shooting from the back, providing cover fire for your infantry and all. You want to delay them as much as possible before reaching your hell cannons, just so your hell cannons can expand their ammo, as well as your skirmishing cavalry. It's a build that can force your opponent to break apart their own army, just trying to separate them to go after your backlines, while you can still fight in the whole tandem. You have a whole area secured to yourself, with the aspiring champions being the roadblock, and your whole mobility, skirmishing, cavalry roaming within a free, safe space to screen out enemy threats. So what do you think about this build? I know this is one of the most unconventional builds I've ever created on this channel just yet, but surprisingly they can do quite well in a variety of situations. That's why I love Total War Warhammer so much, because you can come up with the most ridiculous build that actually works. And that is pretty much why I decided to do this kind of series, experimenting wild builds every week, digging up some underrated units and somehow making them work, and doing quite well actually. I hope you liked this video and thank you for watching. If you like it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, as this channel is still very new and would appreciate any growth it has. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.